Okay, good evening, everyone. Let's call the local planning agency meeting to order. I'll ask for the clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Weinberg,
Here.
Vice Mayor Cruz,
Here.
Commissioner Bloom,
Here.
Commissioner Freeland,
Present.
Commissioner Joel,
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Here.
Commissioner Stern,
Here.
Mr. Wasson,
Here.
and Mr. Myers.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, commissioners. We've seen quite a bit of each other. We've been busy the last few weeks, seen everyone at some beautiful events, and thank God we like each other. And here we are again. So we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Sonia Dewan, an 11th grader at Dunsilver High School, if she'll lead us, and ask those that can to stand. Come on up here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to approval of the minutes. I need a motion to approve. Commissioner Freeland, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. And let's vote.
Commissioner Bloom,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeland,
Yes.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cruz,
Yeah.
and Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Now we've got item 4 is a motion recommending adoption of an ordinance. I'm going to ask the clerk to read the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending Chapter 31 Land Development Regulations of the City Code of Ordinances by amending Section 31-21 definitions to add a definition for extended stay hotel and amending Section 31-143F2A multifamily high-density residential districts, RMF4, to add extended stay hotel to the list of uses that may be established in RMF4 if first approved as a conditional use, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Thanks. I need a motion to adopt. Commissioner Freeland, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. Kevin, our Community Development Director, you want to tell us about this item, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commission. This is an LPA meeting, so what you are doing is making a recommendation to the City Commissioner later this evening on this potential new definition. Right now, the City Code has a definition of limited service hotel, which is a hotel that can go into an apartment building or a condominium building and operate as a hotel with up to 90 days length of stay. This would add a new category of hotel called extended stay hotel. The difference being the extended stay hotel could have a stay of up to 6 months with the option, as currently proposed, for an extension for an additional 6 months. And then the proposal also adds some conditions that would have to be met in order to get this extended stay hotel. One being that it would have to be within the RTZ zone, so basically along Biscayne Boulevard, and that it would have to provide some shuttle service amenities for those that would be staying. So as proposed, and I'd like to read the definition in, if I could, that was proposed on the agenda because there's been quite a bit of talk about it, but as proposed, it would read as follow. Hotel or extended stay is a limited service hotel, so it builds upon the previous approval, in which a maximum of 5% of the individual hotel units may be occupied for more than 6 continuous months by the same occupant of the hotel unit within any 1-year period, which is the duration of stay restriction. It shall constitute a violation of the duration of stay restriction to allow any person to attempt to circumvent this provision by relocating to another unit in the same hotel. And finally, an occupant may, however, renew their registration and check back into the same hotel unit commencing at the end of the previous 6-month maximum stay. Just one other key to point out here is the 5%, which is allowed to go beyond what the maximum stay is. That 5% restriction is already in the limited service hotel. So 95% of the guests do have to leave after 90 days. 5% could stay. We're proposing to continue that 5% can stay after 6 months, but 95% of the occupants would need to vacate after 6 months and then recheck in and renew if they would like to stay longer. So this is an applicant request. It was not proposed by city staff, but by an applicant. But it is not property specific at this point. It is a change to the code that would be applicable anywhere within the parameters RMF4 and along Biscayne Boulevard. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
I'll turn it. I see Commissioner Freeland has a question. Just want to make sure it's clear. This would impact potentially other sites as well.
Potentially, correct.
Okay, Commissioner Freeland and then Commissioner Dr. Marks.
I just want to, looking through the agenda, I want to go over what is the recommendation of staff?
The staff is supportive of the language as it exists. What I just read, we support
Thank
it.
you.
Commissioner Marks.
I have a few questions for you.
Certainly.
Are there any hotels at all in Florida that allow a 1-year stay?
No, we could not find any definition of hotel or regulations that are for 1 year.
Can you just repeat that?
We did not find any definitions or regulations anywhere in the state of Florida that allow a 1-year hotel stay.
And what about 6 months?
6 months does exist, yes.
It's my understanding that once an individual would stay in a hotel for 6 months and 1 day, they would no longer be paying hotel tax or sales tax for the remainder of their stay. Is that correct?
That is correct. And not only for the remainder, but for the
Prior
first 6 months, they wouldn't pay either.
Okay.
Is my understanding. I'm not a tax expert by any way.
Okay.
Again,
So,
if I just can clarify, as long as there's a written agreement, there must be a written agreement for that provision to apply. If there's not a written agreement, the first 6 months you would pay the taxes, and then 6 months and a day, the term after that, you wouldn't have to pay the taxes. But with the written agreement, you wouldn't have to pay the taxes if the stay is over 6 months.
so this written agreement could be made at the beginning of day 1 of this stay,
I would assume that's when you would make it, yes.
because otherwise the person would be paying sales tax and hotel tax,
Right,
which is a significant amount of money,
right,
you know, together, especially for 6 months, et cetera.
correct.
So what is to say that this could not be interpreted as a rental unit instead of a hotel room?
The definition is that it's a hotel. And at 6 months, it would be compliant with our code that it would be a hotel room. And there are other factors such as the size of the room. We would not allow an apartment to be the size of a hotel room. The amenities that are in the room, the service that is provided, the management. There are many ways that a hotel is distinguished from an apartment. But there is the concern that if it goes over 6 months and they're not paying the hotel tax, that it could be construed as residential rather than hotel.
And then would that impact the density or I guess the density would be the right question, that could be then extrapolated into other developments?
It is possible. We don't know that. There's no case that shows that would be the case. There's no case that shows that wouldn't be the case.
Okay. Now, let me ask the commission, I guess, I'm going to ask you the question, but I think the commission probably would have to think about this. So right now, we have a rule in the city of Aventura that you must live in the city, I believe, for 1 year before you can apply to ACES, to our schools. Is it 1 year? Okay. Is there anything to stop someone from renting this smaller type of unit, keeping it, and saying that they live in Aventura for a year? How would we handle that part?
I think they would have to show that they're receiving bills, paying, they would have to have literally a lease agreement that shows residency, and it would have to be tied to a utility bill. Their car, if they had a vehicle, it would have to be registered to that address. So that's some of the ways that we establish that, but usually it's a utility bill. If they're voting, it's on their license. Those are all the things that we look at. So if they were living in a hotel and they were trying to use that as a way to get into ACES or apply for the lottery, the first thing that we look at is where do you show us where you're really living. If you're living in a hotel, that's not gonna count.
But we don't really have a rule that says you can't live in a hotel either.
No,
To go to a school, right?
as long as if you can show that it would have to be you can't live in a hotel and apply, I don't think.
Mr. Mayor, can I sort of chime in? So-
I want you to, I think that is an outstanding question by Commissioner Dr. Marks, and I would like to flesh it out further if we could. That's a great question.
So most of the case law dealing with residency has to do with candidates qualifying for office. There's not a whole lot of cases dealing with residency in this other context. So as the manager said, generally sort of the indicia of residency are the things that he mentioned, but there's nothing that would stop the city from establishing what residency means in terms of being eligible to go to the school. So I don't think state law is really helpful here. It's really up to the individual city to decide what residency means. And I would offer this. I mean, to some extent, the manager mentioned about having an agreement. Well, one of the first things I said is with the state, if you don't want to pay the sales tax and the tourist development tax, you actually have to sign what the state is calling a lease agreement. Sorry about that.
It's a lease agreement.
A lease agreement. But like I say, it's up to the city to decide how they want to determine residency with respect to, attending a municipal charter school.
Is there any reason why this 5% can't be considered leases instead of hotel units? Is there anything in what the code or anything else is providing that would prohibit the developer from changing it to literally a lease agreement?
No,
So wouldn't that be cleaner all the way around?
no.
No?
He wants to have I think they want to have the flexibility to be able to either use it as a hotel room, or if they do get a 3 or 6 month lease, then be able to do it that way. But they I'm sure want to have the flexibility to do so.
Well, why can't you rent? All I'm saying is it's cleaner for a lot. My question is honestly, and I'm not an attorney, so forgive me for even thinking about going, over the ledge here, but it would seem to me a developer who saw this type of an arrangement could literally say, wait a minute, forget it. They're not paying hotel tax. They're not paying sales tax. These are rental units. And so we want to build something too. And we want this to, because as you said, we're changing the ordinance. It's a code or an ordinance? What are we doing here?
Ordinance.
The ordinance. We're changing the ordinance and it's applicable to everybody. So I am not opposed to the development. I'm concerned about this tweaking as opposed to making it very clean. And then there's no issue for anybody. So I don't know.
So I have Vice Mayor Cruz and then Commissioner Freeland, no, and then Okay, one second, and then Commissioner Stern after Vice Mayor. I just want to, I have to step in for a second. You mentioned leases. We cannot have additional density. Nothing can be considered more units on that lot, or we're setting the bar higher for Live Local. That is something that I'm absolutely adamantly opposed to. That is the reason why there are to be no more units there. That is the reason why it has to be a hotel room. Now, if it's extended stay, and if it is paying a resort tax, I'm comfortable, if the attorney tells me it's okay, that it is a hotel. The minute they stop paying resort tax, my fear is that a developer will come to our city and say, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. That is just additional. I don't care if you slap the name hotel on the wall, on the building. If they're not paying resort tax, they're not in a hotel. Okay, so I have trouble with that, but I didn't want to get to that yet. Your initial question about residency for our schools, I think raises a very interesting point. As far as I'm concerned, I think we're probably going to have to clarify our residency requirement for our schools, that you don't get any credit when you're staying in a hotel. I don't care if they stay there for 3 days and then sign a lease for an apartment in Aventura Lakes, and 9 months later, they say, I've been living here for a year. No, in my opinion, the 3 months in a hotel does not count. That's what I would want. So it's a different issue, not to be determined today, but that's a very good point you raise. And I think it has to be made very clear for those applying to ACES or Don Sofer. So you make a good point. As far as it being a lease, I'm personally not willing to go down that road. They're maxed out on density with the units they're building. Then now we're discussing the hotel and whether or not it can be an extended stay hotel. So that's where I am on that. And my understanding is with 6 months, they do pay the resort tax. With 6 months and 1 day, they don't. Soon, I'm sure we'll get into discussion of, okay, so they check out and then they check back in for a second 6 months if we're allowing that. I sure hope the resort tax keeps running, Mr. Attorney. 6 months, then they check out, they check back in for 6 more months. They're still paying a resort tax, correct?
Technically, if that's the way you do it, I think you would, if you check out, it's not continuous, you would pay the taxes.
Okay, so at least in this seat, anything that puts a guest in a position where they're not paying the resort tax is not something that's acceptable to me, because to me, that's an apartment. So that's a rental. So
But let me, if I can, about the taxes, just somebody asked this question, one of the commissioners earlier today, and there's no tax loss to the city if these people don't pay the taxes. These taxes go to the state and they go to the county. So the city's not losing any taxes.
totally not my concern.
No,
I
I'm
know
just,
that.
but I'm just saying that.
It's how is that space considered legally when a Live Local developer comes in and says, every one of those rooms, it should be added to the density on that site, and so they get that.
So here's, and I know I guess get into the glitch bill thing, but what the amendment does, this isn't about density or FAR. This is just simply an amendment to the code. This is not touching density, on the books. It's not affecting density or FAR. Okay, so to that extent, there's a strong argument that Live Local has nothing to do with this. Live Local does not create a better environment for development if you were to pass this amendment.
Okay, you want to finish, Commissioner?
I just had one last question. These specific units that could be 6 months and then another 6 months, what is the square footage of these units?
Honestly, Commissioner, I didn't prepare in my head and I don't have it in my notes.
Is the developer here? Could he
The
answer
applicant for the text changes here and also happens to be the applicant for a development and could answer that question.
All right, can we put that one on hold? Because I have 2 other commissioners that want to ask questions. I'm going to let the developer have the floor. But
And as we do so, if the city attorney can let us know if it'll be appropriate for the project to be discussed tonight.
Oh,
right, this is not for a specific project. Okay, so Vice Mayor, sorry.
My question is, you say you can lease it for 6 months and lease it again for 6 months. Is there anything in there that says that after the 1 year, they can't lease it? Because I want to make sure we tidy that up and make sure that after 1 year, it's over, not that they have a right for another 6 months.
As currently written, as long as they check out every 6 months, they could check back in continually, as currently written.
Commissioner Stern?
I just want to talk specifically about Dr. Marks's question about the school, and you briefly touched it. But if it's a hotel, there isn't a lease. It's a hotel. There's no utility bill, right? The guest is not paying the electric, and you can't get a driver's license. So that alone should disqualify anybody from staying there to be allowed to go to the school. So that should squash that. No? Tell me why, because I don't understand.
Because you can, the way this is presented, you can upfront agree to a 12-month, a 6-month and a 6-month. But you can, am I correct? City attorney?
Yeah, I mean.
They can do it upfront.
For
and
purposes
this way
of
they don't pay the taxes.
just the tax abatement side of it, the statute says the way you get the tax abatement is you're there for 6 months and at least 1 day, and you sign a bona fide lease agreement. That's the language in the statute, that you have to sign a lease agreement.
So
So we'd have to prohibit lease agreements.
even if that's, I want to respond also to Commissioner Stern. You said it should. It should. I will guarantee you that in the very first year, there will be a parent of a child that lives in an extended room and makes the claim with an attorney that their residency for school purposes is Aventura. It has to be clear in the language of the school, having nothing to do with any specific project, has to be very clear that hotel stays do not accumulate residency days. Doesn't matter what should or what makes sense. It matters what we determine in the documents for applying to the school. If you're staying in Aventura in a hotel, you are a guest. Doesn't matter if it's 3 months, 6 months, 1 day. You are a guest. You are not a resident. We have to make it very, very clear.
Yeah.
So we have to anticipate this. Okay. That's number one. So, sorry, Commissioner Bloom, did you want to ask a question? Okay. I'm going to turn it over so there is an applicant. It's not for a specific project. They want us to change the code, but I'm going to give them the floor if there's no more questions at this moment. Okay. Does the applicant or their attorney want to present any information?
First and foremost, thank you for hearing this and thank you for discussing it. There was a lot of questions and a lot here. So if it's okay with you, I'll try to answer as many of them as possible, and then I'm welcome to the peppering or the readdress. Go ahead, Commissioner.
So I'm just, maybe everyone else might disagree with me, but I know we workshopped this, and a lot of our questions tonight don't necessarily go to what we're voting on the code. I'm glad we're all discussing these concerns about our school and all of this. That's not what is in front of us right now. So I want to just point that out to you. If you're peppered with our questions, that's fine. If you feel you need to answer them, but for me, that's not what I need to hear.
So first of all, thank you, Commissioner Friedland. I didn't want to start with that, but I do want to remind all of us in the most respectful of manner that we discussed this in workshop. So in workshop, what we did come to was the 6 and the 6. So I'm totally open, as you all know, I'm always open to answering questions. I'm always open to dialogue, but I just want to be clear that the whole point of workshop for our city is to weed all this out. So over, the last few days, if you will, I've done the best I can in the legal parameters to answer any questions through attorneys, through Robert, through city manager, city planner. So some of the things that are being brought up today, we had that opportunity in workshop. The one thing that I would like to say, Dr. Marks, if a person in life wants to circumvent the system, they're going to find a way. And I understand that it's our job as commissioners, as a resident of Aventura, as an attorney, I respect that. But if somebody wants to go and rent a studio apartment here in Aventura and spend $800 a month for an old unit, and we can all go look this up. Okay, we have older buildings here that are extremely inexpensive. They're going to do it, and they're going to get their kids into ACEs, and you're not going to have a claim. So I'm totally fine with that question in the sense of what is the end goal of a person? I'm totally fine with that. But I can assure you that a person's not going to just throw away money to establish a residency in a hotel that, as per Commissioner Cruz, I think it was Commissioner Cruz, or I apologize, Commissioner Stern, where it's even in question if you can ascertain residency within a hotel. So just on that one thing alone, that seemed like everybody did want to discuss, and I appreciate our city attorney for bringing up what it is to be able to send your kids to ACEs. So I just want to point that out. And again, I understand it's our job to create parameters to make it extremely hard for somebody to circumvent the system, but it wouldn't be at the price that it would be here. I also just want to, I can stop for a second to allow for a response if you'd like before I go on to the second thing.
Can you tell me the square footage
Of course.
of the units that are going to be 6 months and 6 months?
Perfect. So and again, I'm sorry if it was Commissioner Cruz or Commissioner Stern. The optionality, which is something that I've said to you guys, to the commissioners multiple times, is of the importance for myself and the project. To answer your question, as it stands now, there would be a range of 400, 800, and 1,200 square foot units. I'd like to be clear, 93 of these units is, because we don't look at this as a totality, correct, Mr. City Planner? So there's a mix of the unit size. As it stands now, I don't have any micro units. We are not selling micro units. That is not what's going on here. So it would be 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom suites along with regular rooms. And then you would have the condo side, which would range somewhere between 850 and 1,250 square foot units. So it is a hybrid. And I know that one of the things that comes up all the time is what is the total count? I'm pretty sure that that's been asked. So again, these are all things that I'm beyond happy to continue to workshop with you. Before we get a site plan approval, which I believe takes some time. All these things have to be weeded out, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. City Planner. So these are all things that are going to come up that I can't build this without your support. So as much as I can gain your support today on a 6 and a 6. Nothing can happen without the totality of this project legally with the city planner and city attorney and so on and so forth.
Okay, and then just one more thing.
Sure.
I understand that you were not comfortable that we were discussing this because you felt you discussed it in workshop.
No, I'm okay with it.
And respectfully, I am sorry that you feel that way because the commission is doing its due diligence by asking these questions, even though they're not in workshop. And with all due respect, you have come to us multiple times with different iterations of this project. And so we need the opportunity to be able to discuss it. And that's for the best interests of our residents.
I have, maybe that came across in the wrong way. I'm trying to smile as I respond to everything. I think you all know me. My phone is available. I'm available to come into I will discuss anything at any time. I think all the commissioners know that about me, and I think the city knows that. My only point was that when we discuss something in a workshop, there's a lot that goes into it from you as commissioners saying, okay, proceed with this to today. It's not just that I stop and do nothing. There's a lot that goes into it. So if it was the guidance of the commission to not go forward, I wouldn't, there's a lot that wouldn't get done. And then it just becomes a little, I guess, in question as to if I have your support. I only do things with your support. And to address your last comment, I can't control market conditions. You have projects in the city that were approved that are not being done. I'm trying to do something that actually will be shovel ready in the next 9 months. So for what I tried to do in the past that I failed because of market conditions, I came to you with hat in hand and told you I failed. I lost $7 million. I'm happy to show you every penny that I lost. And I literally am coming to you as a resident and as a developer of Aventura and saying, I'd like to do a positive project here in Aventura. I'm not upset that I lost. I'm not upset that I come in front of you. I actually look at it as a positive that I'm willing to discuss and find something that works for the two of us. And I always say to you, I'm thankful for the partnership that we have together. And I'm saying that all with love. I want to be crystal clear. I'm saying that all with love and with gratitude.
Okay, let's move on. Mr. City Attorney?
So I think we can't lose sight of what's in front of you right now. What's in front of you is a change to the code, not anything site specific. So obviously I can't tell you not to talk about something that's site specific. This is a public meeting, but really the underlying question is whether this is public policy that the city commission wants to approve by amending the code to either adopt this definition of an extended stay hotel or some other definition. That's what's in front of you right now.
Right. Okay, so let me make a comment. We workshopped it. After the workshop, I had questions that I asked of the city attorney. I learned about the fact that the resort tax doesn't get paid if the stay is more than 6 months. To me, it's a very, very significant piece of information that I didn't have at the workshop. My position, that only reinforced the exact same position and comments I made at the workshop, which haven't changed one bit, only now they're even more reinforced. And that is, I can't support anything that could possibly hurt us with a live local project down the road. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. So for that, in my mind, I like the concept of extended stay because I think it's a benefit to our business community. It's a benefit to our corporate community. There are people that come down who work in the C-suites who may be here for a longer time, even than they might have anticipated. It's a nice product to have here in our city, but not at the expense of a future development that's going to be a disaster live local workforce housing in our 3.5 square miles because we made a mistake on the changing of the code. So
Can I just respond to just that one piece, Mr. Mayor? And then we
let
can
me
go-
just finish my thought.
Of course.
So what I said at the workshop was your residential component doesn't raise the threshold for live local. The hotel component to me on the extended stay is fine as long as I'm reassured by my city attorney that it will not impact the count of units of density per acre on live local. Now, that's why to me, it is crucial that anyone staying in the hotel is paying the resort tax, because then it says to me, hotel, motel, Holiday Inn, sorry. Throwback, flashback.
It's okay.
So that's to me critically important piece. I also said, and I still say, that live local is still being defined out in the marketplace, out in the real world. And so there is a glitch bill, as your attorney pointed out. And as an accommodation to you, we agreed at the workshop to have first reading and to help you with time-wise. But I'm again not comfortable if that glitch bill that satisfies our attorney doesn't become law. Talking about it doesn't make any difference in the world. The glitch bill, from what I understand that language to be, will clarify that conditional use or variance cannot be used by a live local developer. That will give me the comfort that I need, again, with the reassurance from my attorney. So I'm waiting on the glitch bill, and I also need assurance that every person that stays in an extended stay hotel, again, not your project specifically, will always be subject to the resort tax. Those are my conditions under which I can support an extended stay. Okay, so I don't know how others feel, but my sense of it is that they agree. So if anyone else wants to comment, but that's where I am now. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I promise you all the time you want right now.
I want to separate this because I want to be very, very clear. Number one, we can always go back and look. I was supportive of what you said as a resident here. I agreed with you. The glitch bill has everything to do with this. So we've said multiple times, you even made a joke, if I can, remind you, you've been approved on a first reading and it didn't go through on the second reading. So I'm 100% agreement with you. We've also conferred with the city attorney multiple times, like multiple times. And the glitch bill is very, 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 very clear. So that should defer any question whatsoever that this can affect Live Local. It cannot. The whole reason why we got to this was because of Live Local. I had your support for 139 units, and then Live Local came out in the middle, which if you all remember as commissioners, I didn't even ask to be seen for the second time. I didn't ask for a vote. I wouldn't do that to you because I'm in agreement. I didn't want it. And that was before conditional use and variances were taken out. That's number one. Number two, I'd like to defend this whole thing with the taxes, if I may. You guys are going to vote, and I always take what you say, and we find the way. I just want to be clear. Number one, the taxes do not come to our city. Number two, I spoke to an attorney today. There are extended stay hotels that have contracts with airlines, okay, that circumvent the system. It's public. There's Sutton. What's the firm that I just looked at?
It's James Sutton.
James Sutton is the attorney, and I can send this to the city manager or the city planner, and he can share it with you. There are ways that JetBlue, American Airlines, all these companies circumvent this tax. Okay. And I'm not, there's two different things here. The tax makes it impossible for this to underwrite. Certain commissioners said they don't care about the finances of a project. No problem. And a project doesn't get done. I'm standing here saying to you, the reason why it doesn't work is because of a 21% tax. So I'm saying, no problem. You don't want to understand that. I'm okay with that. But please let's not mix the two. Live Local is Live Local. And this tax that goes to the state that doesn't come to us is something totally separate. And I also would like to say that you as commissioners, you've always said that you take a project. If it's a good project, we find a way to do it. And if it's not a good project, or it puts the city in jeopardy of a new, call it line in the sand, then we're not going to go and do it. But I just want to be clear that this is a good project. This is not something that is, guys, I've taken this down 63 feet in height. I've dropped on the hotel side to one of the commissioners. One of the remarks that came back to me was they're concerned about traffic. Well, I've dropped 60 something units off of this, which was, agreed upon to have a total of 317. And I'm just saying a total because I'm on record here. I'm just saying a total for the purpose of traffic. Okay. I'm not mixing the 93 and the 200 and change. So all I ask is that we look at this as a total and not just as segments of a total project, because you can't build a building by having a piece here and a piece here. You need a foundation and you have to go up from the foundation. And I respect 100% all of your concerns. And I just ask that we work through them together.
Thank you. You want to say something?
If I can just address a few comments. Brian Adler, for the record, law offices at Bills and Sunberg, 1450 Brickell Avenue, Suite 2300. If I may, one of the important factors about the proposed ordinance is that it makes extended stay hotels through a conditional use. So it's not, there are certain parameters that are in play. It has to come before the commission. Any extended stay hotel, there's a limitation as to where it can be located within the RTZ. It must provide either a shuttle to Brightline or a freebie service and a drop off. It has the parameters that are subject to the limited service hotel already, plus those additional parameters. So anything that goes forward has to go through a conditional use. I know that Live Local has been raised and is a concern. The latest glitch bill, it's right in the title, says providing that the density, floor area ratio, or height of certain developments, bonuses, variants, or other special exceptions are not included in the calculation of the currently allowed density, floor area ratio, or height by counties and municipalities respectively. Then the language of the body of the bill says the highest currently allowed density, which is the term that's used, does not include the density of any development that met the requirement of this subsection for the workforce, the local housing, or development which has received any bonus, variance, or other special exception for the density provided in the municipality's land development regulations as an incentive for development. So to ensure that it's also an incentive for development, the extended stay hotel must also develop gold or higher standard under the city's code and regulation as an incentive for development. So by doing that, what it's doing is making it a conditional use and also separating it from what can be counted toward maximum density. This bill has been going and moving very fast. We anticipate it could end up being adopted by this week, and effective within a few weeks. With regard to the 5%, the current definition of hotel already allows up to 5% to be utilized. So it's not just a limited service hotel. The city's code specifically says that with the limitation of 90 days, but up to 5% are not subject to it. So it would be the same 5% that's in the other definitions of hotels. I know you would ask, are there other places that allow the, Aventura is fairly unique in limiting it to 90 days. 6 months is generally the norm. Some do have the same limitation that you all have in your code with regard to not circumventing by relocating. Others are silent, meaning they may not say a year, but they don't have prohibitions written in against rechecking in, et cetera. I want to create just a distinction for taxation purposes. And I look at things, I say, there are intersections of numerous laws that affect hotels. Federal laws, whether it's the ADA or FHA, state laws with respect to the taxation, county laws because the county administers taxation, and city laws. What applies for one does not necessarily apply for the other. So merely paying sales tax or the tourist tax does not make a hotel a residence or vice versa. For example, if I have many condos have a maximum number of leases or minimum stay requirements of 6 months. If they have 2 6-month requirements, they pay, and they lease out twice for 6 months, they pay a resort tax. That doesn't turn that condo into a hotel. If you have a house, homeowners associations may say 6 months and no more. And some have a minimum of 30 days in condos, but a typical one would say minimum of 6 months. The state cast a net and they drew a bright line and they said, for purposes of taxation, we're going to draw a bright line, and our net is cast bright line 6 months and below, whether you're a house, a condo, and et cetera, you're paying the resort tax. So I would just want to address and separate that particular item. And for other purposes, having an stay over 30 days at a hotel and you're allowed 90. This affects many hotels. Some hotels require you to check out of a room after 28 days and check into another room because certain state laws after 30 days may say that instead of a standard eviction, you must get a 3-day notice. So if the state may confer tenancy protections to you after 30 days, but that doesn't translate or convert that tenancy protection for purposes of landlord-tenant law into a density for purposes of city zoning. So there are homestead laws. There are all different laws and regulations that apply. So I just want to kind of clarify some of that. But I did want to address also the school. The particular development is not before you today. But there was a question as to the size of units.
Just for a second, you have to be closer to the mic. I'm being for the live stream and for the record.
Sorry about that. Okay. I was getting a little echo, so I stepped back, but then it wasn't picking up. So a hotel, any unit that comes before you, any extended stay has to be approved by conditional use. This is not before you this evening, but we would be seeking conditional use. I understand the units, hotel units are 400 square feet. That's not where someone would generally live with someone to go to school. So as Matt noted, you can rent somewhere else and it could circumvent. But I did want to at least address a lot of the questions that came up and kind of also address the sales tax and tourist tax issue, only because a fear of if you go 6 months and 6 months, that doesn't necessarily convert you to a residential unit. It does potentially subject you to taxation, or not taxation. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have regarding that. So.
Okay. Any questions? If not, I'll open it up to the public at this time. Any members of the public have a question? Seeing none, I'll close it for public comment. I just want to ask the attorney, with the motion that's on the table now on first reading, where would that put the extended stay in terms of 6 months? 6 months? What are we looking at right now? What are we voting on when it comes to that?
Kevin read it to you on, you want to read it again? Or, I mean, basically what you're doing is you're allowing 6 month, six continuous months by the same occupant. And then that occupant can check out and renew their registration, into the same hotel unit at the end of the previous 6 months maximum stay.
So based on Florida law, with that procedure, they would be paying resort tax, correct?
I mean, if they're, if it's, what's not clear here to me is if they're checking out, if they're checking back in the same day, is it continuous? To me, it's a question whether it's continuous or not.
So for me, until I have the assurance from my city attorney that it's a hotel in terms of paying resort tax, I'm not comfortable. If they're checking out and checking in, and that's 6 months, 9 months, 11 months, 12 months of resort tax, to me, that means they're staying in a hotel the whole time. So I just want to make sure what it is we're voting on. That's what we're voting on right now, where it's unsure. Correct? There's no determination right now. Nobody can tell me they have to pay it or they don't have to pay it. Does anyone?
Like I say, I'm sort of stuck on the word, the phrase check back. If it's the same day, I would argue that you would not have to pay the taxes. If it's contemplated that it is the next day, it's discontinuous, and I think you would have to pay the taxes.
So is there anything that prevents us from putting language in that says with an extended stay, all extended stays are obligated, there can be no waiver of resort tax in an extended stay? Can we have that in the code?
You can't do anything that violates state law. So as long as you're not violating state law, you can do that.
Okay, would it violate state law to say the maximum stay is 6 months?
Absolutely not.
Would it violate the law to say the maximum stay is 6 months and you can do it one more time, but you starting over from day one?
You could do that, yes.
Okay, so does everyone understand my point? I want it to be clear in the code that there is no end around as far as our position. Yes, Commissioner.
I mean, I want the attorney to weigh in on this, but I know that when I stay at a hotel, I get an invoice and it's a checkout date and there is a tax on that date. If I then check in, I am starting a new stay. So if you're required to check out by 6 months, you're paying a tax. You start over again, I would envision it's a new invoice for another 6 months maximum. There should be another tax.
If the focus is just on the tax and
That's what I understood the mayor's concern was at this moment.
right. So I think one of the things that I need to take a look at, I mean, as Mr. Adler said, there are lots of different statutes here. If we're focusing on the tax statute, I mean, I don't know, I've got to check to see if they use the word continuous or not. Because I understand your point, Commissioner Friedland, but if you make the argument that you're checking back in on the same day and it is continuous for the 12 months, I could make the claim that you would be tax exempt. But clearly, if you have to sit out one day, then you would not get the tax break because none of those two stays would be over 6 months under that scenario.
Okay, yes.
Would there be a way, let's say this is first reading, so there's going to be another reading, correct?
Yes.
Would there be a way to slightly amend the motion or the actual language to just say pending appropriate language that will ensure that it will not be continuous?
I mean, it's your ordinance. You can do whatever you want to it.
No, but that.
No, this is the
that-
motion for first reading to approve or not approve.
No, but I understand that. But if you want to change the language, if the motion is to make some changes to the definition that's in front of you, you can do that now.
Right, but what I think the commissioner's asking and what we can't do is we're voting first reading on an ordinance. We're either voting to approve the ordinance now or not. We can't say we're voting to approve it subject to that. Because the language is the language where we have to make the changes in the actual ordinance. And then we vote on it.
So can we make the change tonight in the actual ordinance?
We can approve,
Yeah,
yes, we
sure.
can.
Okay.
The motion right now is to approve it the way it's written. We can
That's
amend
right.
the motion and we can amend the ordinance and then approve that. It doesn't mean that that is acceptable to the applicant. Okay, so, but the fact is, the commission, we can vote right now if you want on the motion that's on the table and it'll pass or it won't. Okay, and that's the one where we're not sure. And then we can get an answer before second reading. Okay, but to me, I can't personally support that.
No, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, voting, the amendment that's on the floor, if you vote to approve it, it does not lock you in going forward. You're not bound to approve this, on second reading with this language.
Or this motion can go for a vote. It could, let's say
Could fail.
hypothetically not pass.
Correct.
And then someone could make a new motion.
That's correct.
And just tweak that little bit of language. Is that another way of doing this?
That is another way of
Yes,
doing it.
Commissioner Bloom.
I have a clarification question. We seem to be hung up on the whole sales tax thing, and I want to make sure that I understand the concern with the sales tax, because that money is obviously not going to the city of Aventura. So is your concern with the hotel tax that the fine line between
Yes.
hotel versus rental
Yes.
or lease rather? Is that?
Yes, somebody down the road taking the position in court that you're calling it a hotel, but it's really not. It was an end around. It was because if you're not paying hotel tax, tell me how it's a hotel. That argument and some judge buying that. I'm not willing to risk that for our city, okay? Even if it's a small chance. I don't think it's a chance we need to take. That's my opinion. It doesn't mean everyone shares it or agrees.
Okay.
The idea of an extended stay, as I said, I think can benefit our community. But whether you stay
agree.
one night or 180 days, there's a resort tax. Whether it's fair or not for that it be 20% is a different issue. It's not our issue. Yes,
I'll, Ms. Commissioners.
go ahead.
Based on that, why are you saying I
I
don't,
know
you're
you're
reading
gonna
my
say,
mind.
please.
Go ahead.
No, please, because I think the council needs to hear your questions so that I can finally respond to why. So
Yeah.
I'd appreciate if you can ask.
Yeah, basically, the tax, if the city's not getting the tax revenue and the tenant or the resident, whoever, whatever you want to call them, is paying it, I'm a little unclear why it's important to you. Does it cost you more money? Because if they're paying the tax, it's not affordable because the tax is so high. Is that why you feel that you're not going to be able to rent them?
100%.
Okay.
It is roughly 21% tax. The whole point of this is to have a stable environment to be able to fund this. I've said this from day one. I've been on record as saying this. I've never skeeted around it. I've always been very, very, very clear. When you have a model and you present to a bank, you present to a partner, you present to any equity piece of this puzzle, quote unquote, you have to be able to have the money to build something. No matter what it is. And you're not developers, you're not bankers, I'm not a banker. All I do is I plug information into an Excel, it underwrites or it doesn't underwrite. I could tell you that when you add 21%, we don't make that kind of money. We don't work on 21% margins. That's not what it is. So if you're going to take a 21% margin and put it to this, I've come to you multiple times and said that an extended stay hotel, all it allows is stability. It allows, in the current economic position that we're in today, it just allows it to be buildable. That's all it is. So when you're working on a 7 cap, and I'm not going down a rabbit hole here, but you're working on 7%. If you're going to add another 20%, that means you just lost 14%. So it
I
completely.
think we get that. Do you see where the commission is going? Do you
100%.
see any compromise? Because I understand, and I hate to say no, but I also understand why we have to say, we have to defend the tax part. Do you have a compromise to that?
So my compromise was twofold. Number one, as far as I'm concerned, and I just took a minute just to
Take your
breathe, 'cause
time.
I don't want to just spew something because I don't mind being put on the spot. I just want to be clear. As far as I'm concerned, and one of the commissioners brought this up, and it's true, having the option to have your 93 units as sale or rental, a true rental, amazing. Then you have this other group that's an extended stay hotel that allows the option of the project to sign rooms, units, where you can have the option for an airline, a Carnival, a cruise line, whatever it is. Sorry, I didn't mean to say Carnival, a cruise line, to have the option to have somebody stay there longer. To me, you have something like the Blue Green Diamonds, which is a resort. They call it a residence, but it's a resort. It is the same thing as a hotel. There's no difference. Not Privé, excuse me. Provida, sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Porta Vida, sorry guys. They have a restaurant in there. They have a concierge in there. Does that mean that that's a hotel? But yet they're a condo or a rental? So I just think that to what Commissioner Bloom asked, if you're using the tax to put a parameter on me, great, you did. I can't do it. I don't have an issue with that. So just that's fine. But then what you just said, Commissioner Stern, is where is there a middle ground? And what I propose from listening to you is, and I hope I'm allowed to say this, let's approve this, or let's take a vote to approve this. And then we have the next 2 weeks to sit individually with the city planner, with the city manager, with the city attorney, and we can fine tune this. And as you all know, and I said this before, I'm open to trying to find what that is. I don't think that this setting, we're going to get to that. So I would say,
I was going to propose exactly that. You've been wonderful and very patient with us. We want to see it work, but we also have to do the right thing. So I would propose that we do approve it. Let them come back to us, because I believe as is, we're probably going to say no. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but if we can modify and you hear us loud and clear, hopefully by the second reading, we could all agree. I would propose we do that.
I would second that.
Okay, so let me just ask this, let's call it a business model that you're proposing. Tell me where it exists right now elsewhere.
Sure. I've been seeking a capital partner on this project. I have multiple people lined. You're asking me specific, correct?
No. You may have misunderstood my question.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. What you're proposing for your project, I know we're not here on your project, but what you're proposing, our code allow your project to do, where in what other municipalities, where are there extended stay hotels with operating under an ordinance like this?
So I just want to be clear, 6 months is the norm in the state of Florida. That's not in question anywhere. There has been, and again, we just saw this today when this just came up yesterday, just so that we're clear, because a lot of this was just brought to me yesterday where this was in question. We did start doing our due diligence to find out that there are, I don't want to say legal battles, but I will say that there are cases where I think it was American Airlines that was spoken about in this article, where they are challenging just this law that my client or I guess that it's not a tenant. So the person staying in the hotel is staying there for longer than 6 months, whether they check in or not, they're still staying in there longer than 6 months, and they're challenging the tax piece to this. So to answer your question directly, 6 months, normal. 6 months and a day, uncharted territory.
Okay, and 6 months, check in again, another 6 months. That's not happening with an ordinance like this anywhere that you're aware of. Like, in other words, this ordinance is not modeled after another ordinance. This is something that was created out of whole cloth. Am I correct?
Kind of. Just to be clear, that there is the 6 and the 6 that does exist. There are other projects here in the state that do have this 6 and 6, or call it the 6 months and then they stay, where they are challenging the tax piece. I understand, again, I just want to be clear. The tax is a way for you to put parameters on me. I'm fine with that. But to answer your question directly, this is not something that isn't done. there are leases out there with organizations and hotels to do this. But the difference is they've already had their funding, they're established, and they're willing to fight that, which that's not for me to do. And I also, again, do things upfront with you and I tell you exactly what I'm doing. Just to clarify one more thing. We had an hour call with the city attorney, the city planner, city manager, and my attorney. And we went over every iteration of what my goal is to do here so that this was quote unquote blessed. And it was careful as to what the goals of this were, which was the stability to have. And at that time, it was the 1 year. So that was I believe that call is public. I don't know, but we were very clear that at that time we were seeking 1 year so that we can have the stability of these corporations and other corporations that are moving into Florida to have units that they have a concierge, they have a restaurant in the building, they have furniture. So the units are exactly what a hotel is to the T, but the option to save some money by having an extended stay rate. And that was, we were very clear on that. I see our city attorney shaking his head because I was very clear on that.
Okay, thank you. Any other commission comments? If not, we're going to vote. Yes.
I just want to make it clear. The issue is not, we're not interested in the tax piece from a money standpoint. We understand we don't get the money. Thank you for clarifying that. So you have to pay 21% on top? No, it's just.
The guest pays.
The guest pays. So why does that impact you?
A person, okay, so again, the financing, yeah, just to be clear, if somebody's, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but if somebody's paying $4 a foot for that unit, or they're paying X dollars. So if you're paying 300, you're not paying 300. Now you're paying 363.
Right.
That's a huge difference. It doesn't work.
So I think the reason that I'm asking all these questions.
Sure.
And I think what I'm hearing the mayor say, which is the same thing. I just don't want it, just as you see challenges coming up now. I don't want someone to challenge this in court and say, look, this is really not a hotel room. It's clear because they're not paying taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So if you guys can figure out a way, whether they have to check out for a day or whatever they have to do and have your no, but you don't want them paying. You don't
Actually,
really want.
can I ask the city attorney a question just based on something you just said? Mr. Attorney, what is the ramifications of somebody challenging this in the sense that Dr. Marks and our mayor are referencing, meaning that it would change the density here in the city, just so that I'm clear on what the fear is on from the legal standpoint of this that has been brought up now twice?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question, but if we're focused on the taxes are one thing, but this code amendment does not have any impact on the density in that district or the FAR in that district.
Right.
Okay. But in terms of the tax consequences, that's an entirely different question.
But the mayor is strictly, Mr. Mayor, if I'm not mistaken, that's clearly what you're worried about. The mayor, the attorney.
Let's get to that point, because I think that's where you really want to go, at least in my mind. You know, if you check out for a day, forgetting about the taxes now, let's take that off the table. If you check out for a day, but in effect, you're in this unit for the equivalent of 1 year, whether it's a year and a day, well, a year with a break of 1 day, or it's 12 months without a break. What I'm hearing some of you say is you think that you're converting this to a residence, to an apartment. Whether there's a break of a day or not is irrelevant. And that's the concern that I hear the mayor and Commissioner Marks saying. So I think the taxes are important, but I don't think that's a seminal issue here.
It's another tool in the toolbox for someone who challenges it. If they say, you can't just call it a hotel if there's no resort tax, it doesn't work. So in other words, it makes the argument stronger for someone else.
There are lots of definitions of hotels in the statute, so that's what's problematic.
I agree.
And there are no court cases, one way or the other, that define what a hotel is in the context that we're talking about
Exactly.
today.
And I'd hate to be the city that's having to defend it. So anyway, that is the crux of it. A hotel should be a hotel, extended stay or one day.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask you, what's the difference between 6 months and a day and 90, 90, 90, 90? Why can't somebody do the same thing and challenge you the same exact way as the code stands today, of which I would ask, have we been sued or has there been a challenge in the code since that? Meaning, okay, I'm asking you for 6 months and a day, technically, or what I've asked you for, which really was 7 months so that we don't have any issues. But what's to say that somebody can't do 90, 90, 90, 90? There's no difference. If somebody's going to challenge you, then how is that any different?
Well, now you're trying to convince me to stop at 6 months. So
No, I'm saying to you that the 90 days, then take that out. I'm not being argumentative.
No, I know. I
I'm
understand.
saying, like, if somebody's going
I
to
think our development director wants to say something.
I'm sorry.
Did you want to be recognized, Kevin?
But I was just going to answer that question about what currently is in our definition of limited service with the 90-day. And it does have the 5% allowance, which also was brought up here. And first point out, we don't have any right now. We don't have any limited service hotels. But how the 90 days would work if we start to have this is that the hotel would be required to provide a report to the city on an annual basis, an audit of their stays. And the idea is that if the exception is that there are a few that are staying longer than 90 days, less than 5% or around 5%, you're fine. The majority of the units are hotel units. If we start to get reports, audits that say 20% of the units, 30% of the units are being rented for more than 90 days, now they're in violation and we have a problem. And now we can start to say, this is starting to act more like an apartment building than a hotel. So the same logic could apply to the 6 months. The 5%, okay, there's a few that are acting more like apartments than hotels, but it's a hotel. 95% are a hotel. The danger here in saying it's 6 months and a day and it can be renewed is you lose that annual reporting and you lose that ability, whether they're paying the tax or not, how it is functioning over time. Are 90% of the units being filled with people that are staying there and renewing and renewing and renewing, and it becomes their home? Or are the majority of them, at least in theory, checking out every 6 months and checking back in? Yes.
Doesn't the 5% though protect that from happening? It can't go above 5%.
5% would say 5% don't have to check out and check back in.
5% don't.
The other 95% could check out and check
So the
back
other
in.
95% though are not eligible for the 6 months. Only that 5% is eligible for 6 months and then 6 months and then 6 months.
As written, all would be eligible for 6 months and renewal. 5% wouldn't have to renew. They could right up front stay for as long as they want.
I see. Okay.
Okay. So let's, yes.
I have one question for the applicant, and then I have a comment about the actual language of the ordinance. So just so I understand clearly from the applicant, if you were not able to create a long-term project that did not have taxation, you'll never be able to get financing?
Just to be clear, the word never, because we have no idea what the Fed's going to do over the next 24 to 36 months. As it stands today, the answer is no. I'd also just like to be very, very clear about something. I have financing in place on what was originally proposed, which was the 7 and the 5. Just to be clear, that's not what we're voting on here. But to answer your question direct, I am prepared to seek site plan approval in the current position that we are, assuming that I did get to that year. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Yeah. Now, my next question is not for you. It's for the commission and maybe our city attorney. Because I understand at least the first concern the mayor and the majority of the commissions had is any negative effect on our density or RAF with Live Local. So could I propose FAR, excuse me. A small addition, amending the ordinance. So we could include something that notes that this would have no bearing on the density or FAR of the city. I have it written out. I could propose the entire ordinance, but it's just an additional bit of language that I would think might be helpful to include.
You can include it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if it were challenged in court, it wouldn't matter.
It doesn't.
I agree. I know that is a
To me, it
possibility.
does nothing as far as a challenge. We can,
No, I would think it would be, why we're setting out from the beginning that it was the intention of the city that in the code, the ordinance we proposed does not have any effect on density or FRA.
I think,
Of course, if
I think the
local
glitch, I
overtakes
think the
us,
glitch bill would deal with that. If the glitch bill is approved, I think you're covered. Okay. If it's not approved, then the question is whether you want to go forward or not with this.
okay, so we're going to vote now, and Commissioner Stern recommends passing on first reading, seeing what can be worked out before second reading. We'll vote, we'll see where we are, but we've really, I think, beat this to death. And at this point, it's not productive. And I see heads nodding yes. Okay, so let's call the question.
Commissioner Friedland,
yes.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern.
Yes.
Commissioner Bloom,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cruz,
Yes.
and Mayor Weinberg.
No.
The motion passes.
Just want to thank you for your time. I know I took up a lot of it, and I just want to thank you, and I look forward to working with you within the guidelines of what we're allowed to work with here at the city so that we can fine tune this and really make this a good project. And I genuinely appreciate the questions, and I mean that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on.
Sure.
We're going to adjourn the LPA. So I need a motion to adjourn. I don't think that should be a problem. Commissioner Cruz, second by Commissioner Bloom. All those in favor say aye. We're adjourned. Okay, welcome back. Hey, it's kind of like checking out, then checking back in. Now is the regular commission meeting. Let's call it to order and call the roll.
Mayor Weinberg,
Here.
Vice Mayor Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Bloom,
Here.
Commissioner Friedland,
Present.
Commissioner Joel,
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Present.
Commissioner Stern, Mr. Wasson,
Here.
and Mr. Myers.
Sure.
You have a quorum.
Okay. Mr. Manager, any additions or deletions?
No, Mayor.
Okay. No proclamations tonight. What a disappointment. No special recognitions, no employee service awards. What's going on? Well, I see what's happening. We're making up for the time that we took in the LPA. Okay, so it's time for our Don Silver High School update. I see a principal. Hello, Dr. McKee. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and good evening to our crowd as well. I'm Jeff McKee, Principal Don Silver Aventura High School. Honored to be with you all. And I have an idea. In addition to Hero Housing, Hero Extended Stay. Maybe that can work that out. We do have teachers on probation and might be a good little way of moving them along if it doesn't work out. But thank you. And I'm honored to have a mayor who juggles. Now we know he raps. He's good at closing down the beating of a dead horse, and he comes to so many events. We appreciate all of you. The attendance at ATJC for the Holocaust Remembrance event was phenomenal. Our kids noticed you. They appreciate you in so many ways, but that physical presence, again, means a great deal. And also at our first annual auction dinner dance. Thank you for being there.
Thank you. Let me just say, it's not just me. The whole commission supports the kids, and
Absolutely.
everyone makes every effort to be at any of those events. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. That's been great. And Chief Bentolila, did he just step out? I wanted to recognize him because not only did he come to the HEJC, but he marched with us there and back. So took the 2-mile march with over 500 very rowdy students on a great day. So we appreciate that. And the support of the police force was phenomenal as well. We always feel safe. It's our highest rating on all the parental surveys, student surveys, staff surveys. And again, that's a result of your support and our amazing police force. So tonight, I'm going to, in just a minute, introduce a very special student. She hopefully will succeed Ethan as our student government president, and it'll be a peaceful transition, we anticipate. I don't know if you saw Ethan tonight, but he's all dressed up. He's doing such a great job. We're hoping to hear positive news from Georgetown regarding his acceptance. And Sonia is going to tell you about several schools into which our students have been accepted. Amazing schools, great rate. Before she does, I want to give a quick athletic update. We thank you so much for the gorgeous field, probably the top high school youth field in Dade County. And our soccer teams have done quite well. Our boys team did not lose a single home event. They advanced to second round of districts and got an at-large bid to regionals because of their great record. And they're actually playing right now against LaSalle. Hopefully they'll continue to advance from now 32 top teams in the state to 16. So we'll hopefully get good news. Our girls basketball team last year, inaugural season, had 2 wins. This year, they won 6 games, including the first round of the district playoffs. So we're really proud of them. They finished last night their season, but again, tripled their total wins and had a great season. One of our girls averaged just under 30 points a game. Hopefully she'll make the all-county team. She alone, for all of the victories, outscored the entire other team in those games. So that was exciting. And then we're kicking off some other sports. We have tennis and track starting, a lot of great participation. So hopefully y'all will come out and continue to support our girls and boys, our Barracudas who are competing. And I know, among other things, Sonia, you're going to be cheering for our mayor, and I'm not sure who else is on the bowling team, right? In March 4th, correct? We're excited about that. So Sonia's a part of so many great things that occur at our school, and she's also a talented actress. You'll hear a little bit about West Side Story upcoming, but I introduce to you now, Sonia Dewan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McKee. Esteemed commissioners, fellow students, teachers, and distinguished guests. Hi, my name is Sonia Dewan, and I am honored to stand here before you as a representative of the student body here at Don Sofer Aventura High School. Alongside the accomplishments, I am thrilled to tell you about my experiences as a student. Firstly, I would like to express my appreciation and gratitude for the vast educational resources and opportunities provided by our school and our administration. The Cambridge program, in particular, has been instrumental in shaping my academic experience along with my fellow students. As a junior who has overcome the challenges of this rigorous curriculum, my peers and I have taken the time to familiarize ourselves with the depth of knowledge which it provides. The outcome, as I'm proud to say, has been nothing short of excellent. Its unique and compository curriculum has allowed us students to not only broaden our foundation, but has directly given each and every student the equal opportunity to receive a full Bright Future scholarship. These scholarships are more than just a financial incentive. They represent the realization of our aspirations. Speaking of universities and scholarships, acceptances have started rolling in for our class of 2024, many of which are already committing. We can proudly say some of our seniors will be attending Cornell, Northeastern, and the University of Miami, receiving substantial scholarships. Additionally, one of our most remarkable and exceptional seniors has received a full scholarship to Northwestern University through the Quest Bridge program. Her achievements not only reflect her personal accomplishments, but highlights the potential of our entire student body and what they stand for. As a student who dreams of pursuing higher education, knowing that there are pathways to support my journey through these scholarships is both encouraging and empowering. It fosters a sense of hope and determination, motivating me to strive for excellence in my academic pursuits. And who knows, maybe if I keep acing these exams, my mode of transportation might go from a scholarly stride to something more four-wheeled. Maybe a Porsche? Okay. Good. Moving on from acceptances, our students hold highly esteemed school and community leadership positions. I am one of these students, as I am the vice president of the class of 2025. In addition to student government, I know that many of my friends personally, are on our city's youth council. In addition to leadership, our students are heavily involved in what makes our school so successful. A great example of this was the homecoming, which took place in 2023. My board worked hard to gather support from students and their parents to organize this widely successful event, bringing in over $10,000 and creating key experiences which students will look back on in their future. Extracurricular activities as well has played a very pivotal role in my personal and academic growth. Whether it's been competing and planning Model United Nations conferences for students or passionately acting in West Side Story, the school has offered me an avenue for exploration and self-discovery. These experiences are not just about developing skills. They teach us about teamwork, leadership, resilience, and for that, I am grateful. I'm grateful for the teachers and administration that have elevated the school onto another level. I'm grateful for the parents and faculty that show up and plan community events like the fundraiser we had this previous Saturday. Beyond anything, I'm grateful for Mayor Weinberg and the city commissioners that gave the City of Excellence its name. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to witnessing the continued support and enhancement of these invaluable aspects that contribute to the success and growth of our students and our beloved community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia.
Is she a junior? She's a junior?
She's a junior who, at the end of sophomore year, already fulfilled all the requirements for a Cambridge diploma. And now she's taking 7 advanced placement classes, and I'm sure she has a lot of homework. So thanks for sticking it out through the discussion. And she'll also very likely earn her capstone diploma from College Board. So she's going to have 3 diplomas pretty soon.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Really impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you all
King.
for your support.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Anyone on the commission or the manager need to remove an item? If not, okay, let's have a motion to approve. Commissioner Dr. Marks, a second. Vice Mayor Cruz, let's vote.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Bloom,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cruz.
Yes.
And Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Zoning hearings, there are none, so we'll move on to number 7. I have a request for a, never mind. Ordinance is on first reading. If the Madam Clerk will read number 7.
An ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending Chapter 31, Land Development Regulations of the City Code of Ordinances by amending Section 31-21 definitions to add a definition for extended stay hotel and amending Section 31-143F2A, multifamily high-density residential districts, RMF4, to add extended stay hotel to the list of uses that may be established in RMF4 if first approved as a conditional use, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve? Commissioner Friedland, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. I don't think we need to hear again. We're very well versed. I don't think we need any additional comments from the applicant. If there are any members of the public that want to speak, I don't see any. Any comments from the commission? I don't see any. So let's vote.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Bloom,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland,
Yes.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cruz.
Yes.
And Mayor Weinberg.
No.
The motion passes.
Item 8, second reading of ordinances. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending Article 2, Local Business Taxes of Chapter 18, Business Regulations, Taxes and Permits of the City Code by amending Section 18-42 Tax Schedule by providing an increase of 5%, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve. Commissioner Dr. Marks, second Commissioner Bloom. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just the second reading of the the increase of the BTU or the business tax receipt that for businesses operating in Aventura every 2 years, the city is allowed to raise that to a maximum of 5%. Even with the 5% increase, we will still be one of the lowest taxed or the business tax cities in Dade County.
Okay, any comments by the commission? I didn't think so. Anyone in the public want to talk about our business tax? Didn't think so. Let's close it for public comment and let's vote.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Bloom,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland.
Yes.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cruz,
Yes.
and Mayor Weinberg.
Yes,
The motion passes.
moving on to B, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending the legislative expense amount for the mayor and individual commissioners as provided for in Section 2.06 of the City of Aventura Charter, approving a $500 monthly increase to the legislative expense account for each city commission member, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to carry out the aims of this ordinance, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve. Commissioner Bloom, seconded by Vice Mayor Cruz. Mr. Manager.
As you heard earlier from the principal, this commission does attend and many, many functions in their pursuit of making this the city of excellence. This is just to authorize an expense increase to attend more of these functions, and it's $500 a month for each commissioner.
Okay, any member of the commission comment? Any member of the public? Let's close it for comment and let's vote.
Commissioner Bloom,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland,
Yes.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Stern.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cruz.
Yes.
And Mayor Weinberg.
No.
The motion passes.
Number 9, Madam Clerk.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, approving a letter of intent with Gulfstream Park LLC to acquire a 3-acre parcel of land, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute amendments to the existing development agreement between Gulfstream Park and the city to use said parcel for future use as a charter school site, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to carry out the aims of this resolution, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve. Vice Mayor Cruz, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. Any commission comment? Any public comment? Okay, oh, you want to comment, Commissioner?
I was wondering if the city manager was going to talk about this before I commented.
Sure, I can. This letter of intent is to secure three acres of land that would be directly west of the current high school location. The letter of intent went over different things that we would like to see or as part of this transfer. Commissioner Marks did bring up a few things that we did later meet with the representatives of Gulfstream Park today. And they were very amenable to making some changes or tightening of the language in some of those things. I'll mention one of them was if in the future the dog park is ever relocated, that there was concern that amenities or everything that's currently in that park would be carried over to a new location. And that was something that they were very amenable to. Driveways, they're seeking to have 3 driveways to the property. And it was not to be 3 driveways in addition to what already exists. So that was another thing that were very amenable to making some changes to. And the last thing that we spoke about was a time limit or a certain portion of this, which again, that we spoke to, and I think there was a consensus that we could do something, but it wasn't something they could discuss without meeting with their higher ups. But I think in the future, we were gonna meet again on that.
Comment?
So, yeah, I brought these items up to the city manager, the assistant city manager, and the attorney. And I think that our city manager has done a great job of meeting with Gulfstream and talking through some of these things. I think the only thing that we really need to fine tune now that I don't know that you've gotten to is the request is for a permanent approval of certain items. And every time we've entered into an agreement before, we've had a date certain where it would expire. So it's just to continue that model because this way, certainly we want to work with Gulfstream. I'm sure Gulfstream wants to work with us, but it's just not committing the city to, forever.
Any other comments? Let me just say that to this point, Gulfstream has been fantastic. I started negotiating with them, honestly, before I was actually sworn in. I approached them because I think the need for a school is so great and the will of the community is so great. And so I went to them and had several meetings with them before I turned it over to Ron and Brian and Kevin. And it has never stopped tracking forward, which I really appreciate. I think they've been more than fair, and I think they'll continue to be. And hopefully this is something that's going to happen in the very, very near term, because I don't know about the rest of the commission, but I get phone calls every single day from moms and dads that have their kids on the waiting list. And it really isn't fair that the real estate agents continue to sell Aventura to young families by telling them, among all the wonderful things, that Aventura also has A-rated schools. And I've yet to meet a realtor that also says, by the way, at the present time, little Jimmy only has a 38% chance of winning the lottery. So they never tell them that, especially that's in the best scenario. If they're in the higher grades, it's just not happening. So we as a commission are going to change that dynamic. And I think it's fantastic. And you can't do it. Most things happen with P3, public, private. And that's how things get done, like Brightline, like Hero Housing. So I really appreciate Ron, Brian, and Kevin and your efforts, and everyone at Gulfstream, many of whom are here today. And I thank you. Yes, Vice Mayor.
So I just wanted to comment too, that we are very fortunate indeed that in our city, we have Charter Schools USA that does such a great job, that has built so many schools. So they have a good idea of how to do so. But we're also very fortunate to have Commissioner Dr. Linda Marks and former Mayor Enid Weissman that have tremendous experience in education and what exactly the schools and the children need. And they will be intimately involved, very involved in the decision-making process of how these schools are built. So we're very lucky, and we appreciate their support.
Yes, and I want to thank the commission. If you recall, you authorized me to be able to travel with the CEO of Charter Schools USA, and I went to see their schools, both newly built and actually under construction, to see exactly what it was, quite frankly, that we don't have in our current structure, our current high school. And what we will have is the day this agreement is signed and we start construction, we're going to have things that it's the way children are educated. As great as our school is, it's going to be even greater because it's the things that we need for the way children are learning now and in the future. So if there's no other comments, we will, if there's any member of the public that wants to speak, I think I already closed it, but I will now. If no one's speaking, I'm closing it for public comment, and let's vote.
Commissioner Friedland,
Yes.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Bloom,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cruz.
Yes.
And Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 10, any commissioner have any items to report? Okay, yes.
I just want to say to Marge Rosenblatt in the back, I believe her birthday is tomorrow. So I think we would like to wish her a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Marge. That is now on the record. Okay, am I allowed to say that you're 48, or I shouldn't say that? Happy 48th birthday. Mr. Manager or City Attorney or Clerk, anything to report? Seeing that you do not, we will move on to public comment. Before the attorney explains how it works, first I will ask if there's anyone that would like to speak. Okay? I don't want you to all line up at once. We're going to do this very orderly. So I will close the public comment portion and ask if there's any other business. Seeing none, we are going to adjourn. I'm asking Vice Mayor Cruz has very nicely made a motion and Commissioner Freeland has seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.